podcast that you did with Ross, he was talking about you were a training buddy with Walter Payton.
I was.
What is that about? Can you explain?
Sure, yeah. I met Walter. I grew up in Chicago, in a suburb of Chicago. We had a chance meeting with him at a 24-hour health club and late at night. This was in the early 80s. I was 17. I was a junior in high school, and ended up working out with him the rest of my high school career, my entire college career. So we became very close, and then I ended up, I was a high school coach later on in my career before I got in the NFL, and I actually coached his son, Jared, and started coaching Jared, and Jared was the same age I was when I met his father and was training with him. So Jared's still in my life. Like they called me this morning, actually. Jared, Connie, and Brittany, his daughter. I've been close to the family a long time.
What's it like training with Walter Payton? I mean, is he very intense? I mean, like what?
Oh yeah. So, I was in the NFL 25 years, scouting players. I never scouted anybody like him. The hill we would run got a lot of publicity. It's really a mountain. It's like 45 yards. 75 yards on like a 45-degree pitch. It was a landfill area out in the suburbs of Chicago, so landfill, it was miserable, it smelled. If you fell, you could get hurt. There was glass and all kinds of stuff around. It would be 3 workouts a day. We'd end at the hill, we'd go to a track, he had a really unorthodox way of training. He was way ahead of his time. A lot of overspeed training and things that you see today. This was, back in the early 80s. So, yeah, I really owe my college career to him. I was a walk-on like Coach Sweeney was, learned to ride and things, and really he had a lot to do with that. Just kind of tagging along with him. I think it was 7 summers. So yeah, it was amazing, and of course that was my first introduction in the NFL. It was the '85 Bears, essentially, to be around that team, that coaching staff. Was just an amazing experience, and somebody's kind of education of football. For that to be, I've kind of had that with me the whole journey.
So, were you around other members of the Bears, like Fridge Perry? Obviously played here.
Oh yeah.
Did you get to know him?
Yep, I did. Yeah, I saw Fridge. He came back with a bunch of his teammates from that national title team. Oh yeah. So I lived with Walter in the summer times. Once he moved into his big house, he'd go to camp a month earlier than I would. So the Bears had training camp disconnected from Hallis Hall. They'd go up to Wisconsin Platteville is where they went. It's called the Cheese League. There were a bunch of NFL teams up in Wisconsin because of the weather. So the Chiefs were up there, the Saints were up there, the Vikings, the Packers, and everything. And then they kind of practiced against each other back then. It was a really cool situation. So. I have a million stories. Walter, the Bears would stay in it's Division III school. They'd stay in a dormitory, but Walter rented, the biggest Winnebago they made, and I would drive that up there for him and park it, and that's where they all hung out. So the '85 Bears, I'd be sleeping there, and they'd just be hanging out at practice. So yeah, it was a pretty magical time.
Is that being around that team? Is that one of the things when you were done with college football that made you think maybe I want to go the NFL route?
Yeah. I always admired the league. Walter had so much love for the National Football League. That was, an all-time great team. So I knew I wanted to do something in the league. I realized when I was in college, quickly it wasn't going to be playing. And he really, frankly, encouraged me to, coach, and he felt like I was a coach and scout. So, it took me like 10 years to get in the league. I played in Indiana, was a graduate assistant, got my master's, paid my dues in Division III, was a high school coach. None of it was kind of gifted. I worked, grinded. Took like 10 years, got my break with the Browns 25 years ago. and worked for 4 teams. It was great. Really an amazing league.
I heard another story that you were saying that you worked at a private school, and so you would like recruit 8th graders.
Oh yeah.
And so, like, what's the difference in terms of evaluating somebody that young as opposed to getting somebody in the NFL or now in college?
Well, the sport doesn't change, so it's very similar, really. Whether you're looking at a player for the league where he's a sophomore in college, junior in college, or you're looking at sophomore in high school, junior in high school, or you're at youth leagues and it's a Sunday and it's still the same sport, and so you're looking for the same traits, skills to play, instincts, high weight, speed, athletic ability, things like that, competitiveness, leadership. That way. I've enjoyed all of it. I mean, it all transfers to me. I have 3 kids. Both of my sons played. I was just part of their development. All their friends growing up, young boys. I mean, that's when I always say this. When you coach at lower levels, and that's where your coaching gets tested about the sheer fundamentals of the sport. And attention spans with young kids and teaching them the sheer basics of the sport. I found that more challenging than here in the NFL, things like that, where you're coaching just these world-class athletes and great football players, and you're just trying to give them something to be a better player. So it transfers for sure.
It's going to be hard to project, obviously, like an 8th grader who's just physically more mature, and then they peak. Obviously, how do you project who's going to really be a good high school player, considering all the variables of how they have kids to build?
Yeah, well, listen, there's just a lot of variables. Okay, I mean, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle or pieces to the pie of evaluation, and so you just kind of respect them all and investigate them all and scout all of them. And whether it's just sheer height, weight, speed, instincts to play, production, their maturity, their football character, their ability to learn, their ability to process under duress of a clock, duress of pressure. There's just a myriad of things. Their mental toughness to play when they're not 100%, because nobody's going to be early in the season or really even in camp like we're about to get started with. So, yeah.
Are there any unfinished products that you remember from any level that you found that you're like most proud of in terms of like they maybe didn't have all of the things that were obvious, but you saw a certain tangible or you saw a certain skill and like this will translate and they became a.
Yeah, I mean, every level. Like when I was a high school coach, none of the basketball players played football, and when I left, they all did. And a lot of times you're always projecting, right? I mean, so whether you're a high school coach, you're projecting a player to play varsity football, and sometimes they haven't even played football. You're watching a kid play basketball, baseball, or something, soccer. Okay, and then college, and we have we like it that players play multiple sports in high school, and so you're watching football, you're watching other sports, how things apply. What's great if a player runs track is you have verified times on him, so you know how fast he is, as opposed to trying to figure that out with your eye. So a lot of different parts of kind of evaluation for a football player and just projecting. I mean, the National Football League, I mean, you have to be world class at the sport. So, it should really jump out at you. I've always said my former job, scouting the player is relatively easy. I mean, it's film, it's practice. Like I said, you got to be world class in football. Scouting the person, that was much more challenging. That's why That's why the NFL travels for, I traveled 9 months a year for 25 years. Okay, so, and the reason the NFL travels and visits a place like Clemson is to investigate all those things that anybody would want on in an organization or a team, right? I mean, life skills, maturity, football character, mental toughness, team attitude. Those are the things that are very, because at the end of the day, you can't scout. You can try, you can't scout that. You know what I mean? And this is hard to scout. So that's just like our coaches traveling to these high schools, and you're trying to figure out a young person and what makes him tick, and his motivations, and what he wants, and how bad he wants it. And those things are like key to any success in anything.
Was there a player you scouted in college that went to the NFL that you just knew based on his character and kind of the person he was, whether the Chargers, Colts, Browns, those guys, like, this guy's going to be a great player?
Well, yeah, we drafted the great Mike Williams from Clemson. So, Mike was an amazing player here, and Mike had broken his neck early in his time at Clemson, and I remember him telling us that he reminded us that he held on to the ball and it was a touchdown, and you just admired his toughness and his grit, and he passed all the height, weight, speed tests, and the clutchness of the national championship here, and the big plays and the team attitude. That was an easy one, and he made us look good. He was a great player. He's back on the Chargers, which I know the quarterback's happy about. So, yeah, he's a good example.
Obviously, scouting college, you go on the road a lot. Like, what does your day-to-day actually look like here? What are you doing, like, each hour?
Yeah, it's varied. I mean, it's been invigorating, frankly. I mean, obviously I watch a lot of film, and so I got to, evaluate the current team and all the high school players. It's very similar. The 26 class, the 27 class. You do that in the NFL for the drafts because they're eligible. I mean, they're eligible. A third-year player is eligible, but especially with COVID, it's third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh-year players and things. And so, I've been able to do some coaching and be connected with the team through spring ball. It's great because I have a coaching background, and just, anything to help us be better here, I'm for it, and help out wherever I can. Special teams, defense, offense. Really been a part of everything. Coach Sweeney's been just magnificent that way. I always admired this program, and it's even better than I realized. So it's been great.
I imagine scouting a defensive end for the NFL and scouting a defensive end for college is pretty similar, just in terms of on the field stuff. Was there anything off the field that you kind of learned about in terms of what to look for, not to look for?
It's pretty similar, really. Having just scouted this program, Coach Sweeney's been here so long, most of my career. I had a good feel. I mean, I talked to him and everybody here. You're really a private investigator when you're an NFL scout, okay? And so I knew a lot of people here, and I was very familiar with the program. I admired it. I mean, you just knew when you scouted a Clemson player that there was maturity. They took care of business. They handled themselves. They knew how to train. They knew how to learn. They knew how to practice. They weren't issues. They graduated. They were achieving guys. They did what winners do. Success. They had seen success. They'd been around that. So you just knew those intangibles really are kind of universal. And I've said that, all the teams that I work for in the league, I work for 4, and probably double the number of general managers I work for, probably the number was 8 or 9, and those things really didn't change much. we're looking for the same things here, just like anybody here would want to work around somebody. You got to add them to this building. You got to add them to the locker room. Do you want your locker next to them? I mean somebody that's going to make us better, make the program proud, help us win games, be an achieving person. Maturity, life skills, take care of business. Be a good decision maker. Very similar.
How would you explain why is there a need for a director player acquisition, I guess, in this era of college football? Is it the NIL being able to value players correctly? Like, what is it about this era of football that makes it necessary for a person like you to have a job like this?
Yeah, I feel like the pro ball and college ball has never been so similar. And so, the history of college football, everybody got the same thing. Everybody got a scholarship. Those days are gone. And whether it's all about investments. You're going to draft a player in the first round, second round, third round, fourth round. And it doesn't matter what the tiers are. There's obviously a value in all that. You're going to draft a guy in the top 10 of the NFL draft. He's going to get this amount, and whether that's a $40 million contract or it's $500,000, I mean the levels, the numbers don't matter, but you got to put him in. You got to evaluate him properly to where you see him. If he's a difference maker, if he's a winning starter, if he's an eventual starter, if he's a role starter, a backup, whatever it is. And so there's just a need for that evaluation and getting it right, because now, like I was saying, the investment's way different. You're not investing in the players all the same anymore. You got to decide, who you're going to invest at what level, and really, it's the intangible thing. What's really different about college football, of course, I've worked in college football at different levels, is that the coaches are the ones that go on the road. Okay, so they're the ones who have to do the private investigator work, and this is a championship coaching staff here. A lot of men I've known from other schools where they've worked, and so it's been fabulous working with them, working together with them, because they're doing a lot of work that I'm used to doing on the road. And really, here for me, it's more just evaluation of the film, and then like we had our high school camps before we left here in the summertime, and that was great because that's kind of like a pro day in the NFL at the Combine. The players were here, and so I got to see them live, physically move around, got to see them compete, got to see their skills up close. So that was way more comfortable for me than just watching film, because that's just a piece of the scouting puzzle. So it's an important piece, but it is a piece.
Devin, how'd you get recruited to this job? Did Devin make the call to you, or did you seek it out?
It was fairly two-sided. Like we had known each other, I just feel like the timing was right. I think anytime you make a switch like that, I'd been in the league, for 25 years, and the Chargers, it was 12, and I was really proud of the team. I left in Los Angeles with Coach Harbaugh. It was a playoff team, and it was time, Herbert, Derwin James, just all those players. Just the timing was right. When he and I got talking, I'd helped him with some of the new coaches on the staff here. He'd reach out to me anytime he had a lot of college coaches do that, because when you're a NFL college scout, you're visiting all these places, you watch these men coach, you're interacting with them about the players, so you know them fairly well. And so he took advantage of that, I suppose. And like I was saying, pro ball, college balls got real similar. So I'm blessed. I'm happy I'm here. It's been great. Just a lot of great people here. Jordan and his staff, Ty Clements, Josh Walls, Zach Fulmer, Chanel Valentine. I mean, they do a tremendous job in this recruiting arm of the program, along with this coaching staff, and really this whole building is. I mean, the success speaks for itself. It's really impressive.
Aside from recruiting versus the draft, and the committees making decisions, how much differences are left between college and the NFL in your experience at this point?
Not much. The teams are built very similar. The window in college, you're eligible for the draft in 3 years. I want to say the average career in the league is 2.5 years if you make a roster. I look at, you have a rookie contract in the NFL 4 or 5 years, and then you have a veteran contract. It's very similar to what we're doing now. I mean, you have a player comes in here as a freshman, sophomore. He's going to know what he's going to make, and then you decide what kind of a player is he once he's here, and is he going to be a starter, and then we're going to pay our whatever the market is. The market sets the market. Anybody's line of work. So I think it's great. And it's very similar.
Do you think in a way that actually might prepare players more for going to the NFL?
Yeah, without question. When you're projecting, you're always projecting, how is money going to affect the player? This gives you a glimpse into it, right? By NCAA rules, they couldn't have an agent. And so their interaction with their agent and how they handle the money and what they do with it, and the maturity level with that, and where they put that when their own situation is in conflict with what's best for the team. It just gives you a glimpse of all that, because they're dealing with what they're going to deal with in the NFL, the fame and fortune of the NFL. And basically all the teams, except for a couple, are in big metropolitan cities, and all the temptations of the league and cities and things like that, and fame and fortune of pro sports. So, I think that way for the NFL scouting community, it's helped.
Generally speaking, most of these deals at the college level, they run year to year, and y'all do any multi-year deals.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of changing every day. I feel like, but it's essentially their 1-year deals right now. This all just started July 1st, so I think everybody is just trying to assess things every day, and where it is, where it's headed, trying to stay ahead of that competitively. Given the goals of the program and the people we play, etc. So it's just kind of ongoing for everybody, just working with the coaching staff, the recruiting department, everybody in the building.
Can you walk us through, I guess, your relationship with Jordan? I guess when you identify a player you think that'll be a good fit, you tell Jordan and staff, how does that, you guys relationship work in a scenario like that?
Yeah, it's really the coaches. They're really involved early because they're the ones on the road, identifying the younger players in high school and players we should evaluate and get kind of in our pipeline, where they got to go through just evaluation of the recruiting department, the coaching staff, and I'm a part of that. And then it's just like the NFL, where you have draft meetings and the coaches are involved, the training staff's involved, the strength coaches are involved. There's just a lot of different factors to figuring out if he's a good fit here in the program and on the universities, you know, and then on the football team. So it's very similar, and it's daily.
And how far, I guess, do you guys project, I guess, is like a year or two, or do you maybe identify some later down the line, but you don't, I guess, don't say anything?
Yeah. I mean, it's 26, 27, 28. I mean, we have some young kids out here at our camps, and we're looking at them all. I mean, we had a youth camp. You know, we got 7th, 8th graders. I'm used to looking at them from a high school job, and so, you know, they're always trying to identify and then just track a player, you know. And really, you know, if a player has come here, there's clearly an interest in Clemson, and, you know, you really want players who want to be here. It's an amazing place, right? And so, yeah, I mean, that's what camp is really great for. Coach Sweeney, you know, it's important to him that it's mutual, you know, so that you show an interest to come here and visit, be on campus, just have an interest in us, and we'll have an interest in you as a player, and that's how it works best. You know? And that's very similar to the NFL. You know, when you're drafting guys about a fit, and, you know, how they're going to fit in Los Angeles or the locker room there with Coach Harbaugh, or when I was with the Colts in Indianapolis, and Coach Caldwell or Coach Dungy and Bill Coyne, or you know, the New York Jets, or it doesn't. You know, it's all about, you know, it's not just about the player and, you know, the fit and all the intangible things. There's a lot there you can imagine for a player, and as the players get younger, it's just, you know, there's more to project. They're younger, they're less mature just because of their age, and so you're trying to figure out, like, where's this guy's maturity headed? Who are his influences that are going to affect that? What are his goals and aspirations and his inner drive? And does that kind of marry up with us, Coach Sweeney, this coaching staff, Graham Neff, you know, President Clements, right?
Jordan was talking about that note stack you'll have on players, just like very thick, you know. How many notes we write down per player, and like what are all the different things we're actually.
I mean, look, this isn't real complicated. I write down what I'm looking at. Okay, you know what I mean? Like, I watch a lot of film. The volume that I'm used to watching is quite a bit, because you're just you know, it has been an adjustment for me. There's a lot of highlight tapes with high school players, and, you know, we don't have those in the NFL. We watch full games. We you know, it's anchoring's an issue for a scout. You know, if you start and it's his best game of his career, it's hard not to be anchored on that. If you start and it's his worst game of his career, it's hard not to be anchored on that. If your first exposure is the NFL Combine, it's, you know, they're in shorts, it's the Olympics, you know, it's hard not to be anchored on that. You know what I mean? So the volume of evaluation that you need to really understand a player, to make sure you haven't missed, you know, his weaknesses somewhere, that's important. So yeah, I mean, it varies by player, but as much as I can.
Do you try to avoid the highlight films? Do you try to get full games? Like,
Yeah, I do. I mean, I look at them, and really, we're evolving so that, you know, there are more cut-ups where it's the negative plays, it's the positive plays. You know, the receiver makes that catch, you know, but are there 10 drops, you know, we're not seeing where he's, you know, catching the ball, tracking the ball, whatnot. I mean, you know, the different penalties, false starts, players, where you can see him processing. I mean, every position has, you know, negative things. You got to be careful so that you understand, you know, the player and you know what you're investing in when you bring him here to the team. that he can hold up and be productive for a schedule like we have. You know?
I guess so. You played at Indiana, so did you know Tom Allen? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Like, what was that like when he came here? What are your impressions of him?
Oh yeah, all respect to Coach Allen. Did a great job at Indiana. Had some of the best teams in school history there. Coach Allen was a very successful high school coach in Indianapolis, and so you know I had that kind of background with him. I've been a high school coach, and so known him a long time. Coach Sweeney, you know, did reach out to me about him, and I knew culturally it'd be a great fit. And Coach Allen's, you know, a proven, you know, tremendous football coach, defensive coordinator, head coach. So I just felt like, you know, it's really. I just knew they had to kind of get together and talk, and it's been great for us. Great for Clemson, great for Coach Allen, great for Coach Sweeney. Really all of us. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.